Well, to begin at the beginning, I was born in Leith. My father was a Glasgow man. My mother was an Irish lady. My father moved to Glasgow for work, and he became a committed Christian in a Congregational Church in Glasgow, and I followed in his footsteps. I was in 2 schools in Glasgow, and then served my apprenticeship as a pastry baker. Attended the technical college. My heart was set on the ministry, and my spare time was spent in studying, and I was a lay preacher for many, many years.
Was it a hard decision to actually make, to become involved in the church, or?
No, it was, I delighted in it. I delighted in it. It was my main interest in the church and mission and the choirs, and I started off speaking at children's meetings with object lessons. Then used to be invited to address adults, and practically every weekend and very often weeknights I was away preaching. I've come out of a pulpit in Greenock on a Sunday night and was straight to the bakehouse where I worked a night shift. And my brother coming along with my breakfast. I became a pastor of an independent church known as the Kirkcaldy, pastor of an independent church in the Kirkcaldy, known as the GU, Gospel Union. I had preached there while I was a baker, and when the charge fell vacant, there were 4 applicants for the post, and I got the call and was inducted on 30th of June 1939. After 5 years, I was placed on Class 1 of the Fellowship of Independent Evangelical Churches, and was awarded their certificate. At the invitation of the late Reverend Dr. Smithson, who incidentally was brought up in Wishaw and served his apprenticeship with the Wishaw Press, and he afterwards became a Baptist minister and gained his PhD. And it was he who introduced me to Dunrossness Baptist Church in the Shetland Islands.
Uh-huh.
And my wife and I went there, and I took a great interest in the Shetlands, and lecture on the Shetlands, and was awarded the FRGS, Fellow of the Royal Geographical Society. Then I was invited to come to Glasgow by the Glasgow Foundry Boys Religious Society to take charge of their place in Bridgton. And my wife and I were really specialised in youth work in Bridgton. And it was a tough assignment. I received an invitation to come to Shotts, and the only one I knew in Shotts was the Baptist minister at that time, the Reverend James Clark, who incidentally had spent his honeymoon in our home. So I was inducted to the charge at Shotts on the 1st of March 1953. So it will be 33 years since we came to Shotts. Quite a long time, and yet it doesn't seem long, because my wife and I were very happy and felt it was a very friendly community. We received a lot of encouragement. Now, Mrs. Porter was president of the Women's Guild. She taught in the Bible class and sang in a choir, and was elected president for Mid-Lanark Congregational Women's Union, and was president when the American delegation of ladies came over from America, and she welcomed them and chaired the gathering in the Hamilton Town Hall. Now, during those years, which have gone past very quickly, I would just give you a wee estimate of the friends that I have been with and the contacts made. Now, during those years, I've had 500 baptisms, 686 weddings, 600 members added, but with 1,121 funerals, sometimes having been in the crematorium or in the cemetery twice on one day. I make a habit of visiting Law Hospital as a rule once weekly, and when in a ward I ask if there's anyone from Shotts and visit everyone from Shotts in either male or female ward, and they all know me, although I perhaps don't know them. And I must say that I've always received a welcome from the folks that I have visited in the hospitals. Well, I get lifts in cars. People speak to me, and I've learned not to ask their name. I don't want to embarrass them because I take it that they often think that I know them. Not nearly the amount of weddings nor the amount of baptisms. The big number there of weddings and baptisms belong to years ago. I don't know the reason for it. It's some changed their mind. I've had quite a few weddings cancelled, and I never asked the reason why. I feel that's not my business. I've known a man to come to the manse and tell me the wedding was off, and I thanked him for letting me know. Otherwise I might have turned up and no bride nor bridegroom. I don't know the reason, and I understand from the registrar that he has not the same number of weddings that he used to have. Well, I certainly think there has been a spiritual declension, and I think that's common to not only to Shotts but to nearly every place. Yes. Although this last 3 months, 25 new members have been added to our church, in all adults. The youngest being 20 years of age, which is very encouraging after just finishing your 33rd year to have that number coming forward of their own volition. When I was inducted, the Reverend Mr. Conacher was Calderhead Parish Minister, and he stated from our pulpit that we were the first place of worship in Shotts. Now, we started in a barn, in Steen Farm Barn. They started having meetings there, and then they moved down, and the 3 little cottages known at Mansfield, what is called the Pit Road, and the 3 little cottages just beyond Spring Hill Corner was our first church.
That's before you go over the bridge?
No, that little building on the left was the first RC church.
Ah, I see.
It became a potato merchant store, and it's now a motor mechanic that has it.
Right.
But we were where the coalman and his family used to live, Mr. Roger,
right,
and Mr. and Mrs. Geordie Walker. Put in Geordie Walker. Mm-hmm. You know, he had the mission hall, Steen Mission Hall, and incidentally, that was the first place that ever I preached in Shotts, was in Geordie Walker's mission, mm-hmm, when I was a young pastry baker. But the present building, the foundation stone was laid in 1907. And they moved from the little building down to the present church. And the manse was built in 1911. The present manse built in 1911. Now, so far as I know, well, in Shotts, the Geordie Walker Mission Hall staying, it's closed. I learned that they moved to a hall which was destroyed by fire. Now, well, you have going from here, the first place of worship is St Patrick's RC Church. Then you move on, you have the Baptist Church, which is a converted picture house. Then you move on, you have Erskine Church, which was a United Free Church, but went over in 1929 to the Church of Scotland. But we've also a Salvation Army at present occupying the Thompson Hall in Terbothy, which was the property of the Calderhead Parish Church. Now you also have in Main Street Kingdom Hall, where Jehovah's Witnesses gather. And at least, I think there are two small sects of Christian brethren. So for the size of the place, they're pretty well catered for. Mm-hmm. The little Episcopal Church in Windsor Street, after the death of the Reverend Harry McGee, is now the band hall for the St Patrick's bands. So that there is no Episcopal place of worship in Shotts. But Shotts and outlying districts have a great covenanting history. Yes. And as Mr. McGee said to me when I first came here, that they had very few, it was difficult in a place with a covenanting tradition to have a strong Anglican church. Dates away back to the times of upheaval, of Reformation and covenanting times. At least he thought that was the reason for it. When I came here, I remember the Wren's Nest, as it was called, the cotton mill up beyond the Den, Bridgton, and it finished. But I think Cummins coming here was a great blessing. But I've been sorry to see all the pits closed. And I visited, I've been down 3 pits, and I have a book there, the Scottish Miners, which I got in a present from Northfield Colliery. And I was very sorry too to see the foundry disappearing, and to see the cooperative buildings closing up. And many have said that we were becoming a ghost town. But I remember visiting one of the pits with the Reverend Dr. Fawcett, who had been a colliery clerk in his young days, and he came here to preach at a United Mission. And we went down the pit, and we came to this little, how could I describe it now? Apparently it had to do with diverting air, down the different roads. And you had to pull back this sort of waterproof curtain, and there was an electric bulb burning behind it, and someone had chalked up, "Welcome to Fairyland." Well, whoever did that certainly had a sense of humour. And so many of the miners knew me, but they all looked the same with their black faces, their white teeth, and but they would say, "Hello, Mr. Porter," and Dr. Fawcett, I think he had to smile. I didn't know them, maybe if their faces had been washed, but they all looked the same.